Before we begin, consider this contrast. In much of the Western world, aging is often treated like a problem to be fixed. We buy stronger supplements, sign up for harder workouts, and search for ways to fight time itself. Yet in places like Japan, especially in rural communities, aging looks very different. People move more gently, more often, and with far less drama. And the result is striking. Japan has one of the highest numbers of centenarians in the world. Researchers observing these populations over decades have noticed something surprising. It is not intense exercise or extreme discipline that seems to matter most, but simple movements repeated daily, often unnoticed. There is a quiet factor here that is easy to overlook, and toward the end of this video, we will explore the most important of these movements, one that many people stop doing far too early. Please do not skip ahead, because that final section may change how you think about aging entirely. If you are watching right now, take a moment early on to leave a comment with your age and the country you are watching from. It helps this channel reach more people who care about aging well, and it also reminds you that you are not alone in this journey. What follows is not a fitness routine. It is a guided observation of daily life, drawn from cultural habits seen among Japanese seniors and supported by what aging science, biomechanics, and neuroscience suggest about how the human body stays capable over time. We will move gently from the sixth habit to the first, layering understanding as we go. We begin with number 6, one of the simplest and most underestimated movements, the act of getting down close to the floor and returning to standing with control. In many long-living cultures, this is not viewed as exercise at all, but as a natural part of daily living. Sitting on the floor to eat, rest, or socialize, and then rising again, quietly trains the entire body in ways modern lifestyles often neglect. Researchers studying aging populations have observed that the ability to transition between floor and standing positions is closely associated with functional independence later in life. This movement is not about speed or strength alone. It is a coordinated conversation between joints, muscles, balance systems, and the brain. Biomechanically, lowering the body toward the ground requires controlled engagement of the hips, knees, ankles, and core stabilizers. These structures absorb load, maintain alignment, and communicate constantly with the nervous system to prevent loss of balance. When this pattern is practiced regularly, joint capsules receive gentle compression and decompression, supporting circulation of synovial fluid, the body's natural lubricant. Over time, this helps preserve range of motion and reduces stiffness that often accompanies inactivity. Neurologically, the brain refines proprioception, the internal sense of body position, which plays a critical role in fall prevention and spatial awareness. Equally important is the psychological signal this movement sends. Each successful transition reinforces confidence in one's physical capability. Seniors who continue interacting with the floor environment tend to maintain a more adaptable movement strategy, meaning they are less likely to panic or freeze if balance is challenged. From a circulation standpoint, the change in elevation encourages blood flow redistribution, subtly supporting cardiovascular responsiveness. Practicing this movement does not require dropping fully to the floor. A cushion, low stool, or sturdy chair can simulate the pattern safely. The emphasis is on slow descent, controlled contact, and deliberate return to standing, using the hands for assistance if needed. Consistency matters more than depth. Even a partial version maintains the neural and muscular pathways that signal to the body that these abilities are still essential for daily life. In this way, a movement that appears ordinary becomes a powerful rehearsal for independence, resilience, and confident mobility as the years advance. Number 5 is walking, but not the way it is often discussed in fitness culture. In long-living communities such as rural Japan, walking is not treated as structured exercise or a chore to burn calories. It is an integrated part of daily life, a rhythm that connects movement to purpose and environment. Elders walk to visit neighbors, carry groceries, tend gardens, or simply move between rooms and spaces throughout the day. Researchers observing these populations have found that frequent, low-intensity walking scattered throughout daily routines is strongly linked to improved cardiovascular health, better glucose regulation, and reduced joint stiffness. Unlike formal workouts, the benefits do not come from intensity or distance, but from regularity and consistency, sending repeated signals to the body that it is still in use, still engaged, and still necessary. Biomechanically, walking involves a complex chain of coordinated actions between the feet, ankles, knees, hips, and spine, each step subtly stimulating muscles, ligaments, and tendons in patterns that are functional rather than artificial. The repeated engagement of stabilizing muscles helps preserve balance and coordination, which researchers have noted correlates with lower fall risk among older adults. Even gentle walks challenge the vestibular system and enhance proprioception, maintaining the nervous system's ability to sense spatial orientation and adjust posture dynamically. These subtle but continuous demands on the body create resilience, ensuring that the muscular and skeletal systems remain responsive to everyday challenges rather than becoming rigid from prolonged sitting or sedentary behavior. Neurologically, walking has a pronounced effect on the brain. Studies suggest that rhythmic bilateral movement, the alternation of left and right limbs, stimulates both hemispheres of the brain simultaneously, supporting cognitive alertness, memory function, and even mood regulation. In communities with high longevity, elders often walk in social contexts, which adds another layer of cognitive stimulation. Conversation, awareness of surroundings, and navigation all engage executive functions and reinforce mental sharpness. The brain is not just moving the body, it is actively participating in a complex sensory and social environment which reinforces neural connections that might otherwise decline with age. Importantly, walking in this context is not about performance or achieving goals on a treadmill. It is about embedding movement into the natural flow of life. Even short bouts, repeated multiple times throughout the day, create cumulative benefits that are greater than occasional long walks or intense workouts. For seniors, this means that purpose-driven movement, moving to complete a task, explore a path, or interact with the environment, is far more protective and meaningful for long-term health than isolated exercise sessions. It preserves not only physical function but also independence, mental acuity, and the simple joy of being actively engaged in life. Number 4 may surprise you because it looks almost like doing nothing. In many long-living cultures, particularly in rural Japan, elders are rarely sedentary for long stretches, yet they are not engaging in formal workouts either. Instead, they incorporate frequent transitions between sitting and standing into their daily routines, moving naturally as life unfolds. Researchers studying these populations have observed that this simple, repetitive motion has profound effects on muscle preservation, joint health, and overall mobility. Unlike structured exercise, which is often scheduled and intense, these small but consistent actions keep the body's neuromuscular system active throughout the day, reinforcing patterns that maintain independence and functional capacity over time. Biomechanically, standing up and sitting down repeatedly engages large muscle groups, including the quadriceps, gluteal muscles, core stabilizers, and even the muscles surrounding the spine. Each transition is a mini-resistance activity, applying load in a controlled, functional context. Over time, these repeated activations strengthen the muscles that are most critical for daily activities such as climbing stairs, rising from a chair, or maintaining balance on uneven surfaces. The subtle nature of the movement also reduces the risk of injury and is sustainable well into advanced age, allowing elders to maintain these patterns without overtaxing joints or cardiovascular capacity. Neurologically, the act of standing and sitting reinforces motor pathways in the brain. The nervous system learns to coordinate multiple joints simultaneously, adjusting posture and balance with each repetition. This constant micro-training helps prevent the decline in coordination and reaction speed that often accompanies aging. Researchers note that seniors who maintain these small, repetitive movements tend to have better balance and a lower incidence of falls compared to peers who sit for prolonged periods. Even the simple act of rising from a chair sends signals to the brain that these movements are still important, preserving both muscle memory and the confidence needed to navigate the environment safely. From a circulatory perspective, frequent sit-to-stand transitions support blood flow, particularly venous return from the legs to the heart, reducing stiffness and promoting vascular health. These subtle shifts in position encourage lymphatic movement and joint lubrication, sustaining tissue health without formal intervention. For seniors, practicing this movement is simple: rising slowly, using arm rests if necessary, pausing briefly, and returning to a seated position deliberately. Consistency, rather than intensity, is what matters most. What might appear as negligible activity, in fact, represents a cornerstone of functional longevity, reinforcing strength, balance, and confidence in the body's ability to meet daily demands while quietly preserving independence and resilience. Number 3 brings us to the upper body, but again in an understated way. In the daily routines of long-living seniors, particularly in traditional Japanese communities, the upper body is rarely ignored, yet it is rarely subjected to intense or formalized exercise. Instead, mobility is maintained through simple, functional movements that occur naturally during life. Reaching for objects on shelves, stretching overhead, folding laundry, or tending gardens. Researchers observing these populations have found that this habitual use of the arms and shoulders preserves joint range of motion, supports posture, and prevents stiffness even well into advanced age. Unlike isolated gym exercises, these movements integrate the upper body into meaningful activity, engaging both muscles and neural pathways in patterns that mirror real, life demands. Biomechanically, reaching and stretching involve coordinated action across the shoulder complex, spine, and core. Rising the arms overhead encourages mobility in the shoulder joint and thoracic spine while engaging stabilizing muscles in the scapula and upper back. These movements also facilitate rib cage expansion, supporting better respiratory function and enhancing circulation to the chest and upper body. Repetition of these small, purposeful motions maintains the elasticity of muscles, tendons, and connective tissues, reducing the gradual decline in range of motion that is common in sedentary lifestyles. Even subtle daily activity in this way prevents the frozen shoulder pattern that often appears in older adults who stop using their upper limbs fully. Neurologically, these movements stimulate proprioceptive awareness, the body's ability to sense position in space, as well as coordination between both hemispheres of the brain. Reaching overhead, bending, and twisting engage motor, planning, and balance simultaneously, reinforcing neural pathways that support safe, functional movement. Researchers suggest that when these upper body movements are repeated naturally, the brain maintains a more robust map of joint position, reducing the risk of falls or injury during unexpected tasks. There is also a cognitive benefit. Using the upper body in daily, purposeful contexts keeps the mind actively engaged with the environment, subtly exercising attention, problem solving, and timing. Importantly, these movements are pain-free and self-paced, emphasizing gentle mobility rather than intensity. Seniors may reach upward to a shelf, stretch toward a window, or lift light objects, all while maintaining posture and engaging core muscles. Over time, these habits preserve strength and coordination in a way that supports independence, from dressing and grooming to household tasks and social interactions. What appears to be an ordinary daily action is in fact a critical element in sustaining upper body function, maintaining confidence in movement, and supporting both physical and cognitive health as years advance, quietly contributing to resilience and longevity without ever feeling like formal exercise. Number 2 is a movement so subtle that many people stop noticing when they stop doing it. It is the simple act of turning the head and gently rotating the torso, movements that are woven into everyday life, yet rarely acknowledged as vital to health. In Japanese elders, this rotation occurs naturally during conversations, household tasks, gardening, and social interaction. Researchers observing long, living populations have noted that maintaining frequent, gentle rotational movement is strongly associated with balance, spatial awareness, and fall prevention. Unlike exercise performed for strength or endurance, this motion trains the body's vestibular system, the intricate network in the inner ear, and brain responsible for sensing orientation, controlling equilibrium, and stabilizing gaze, which is essential for navigating a three-dimensional environment safely. Biomechanically, turning the head and torso engages muscles along the neck, spine, and trunk, including stabilizers that support posture and spinal alignment. These movements encourage flexibility of the cervical and thoracic spine and maintain the range of motion necessary for daily tasks, such as looking behind while walking, reaching sideways, or checking surroundings. When rotational movement is neglected, joints become stiffer, muscles shorten, and the nervous system gradually loses proficiency in coordinating complex motion. Gentle, consistent rotation counteracts this decline, reinforcing both the mechanical and neurological capacity for smooth, coordinated movement. Even a small, slow turn repeated multiple times daily stimulates circulation to the spinal muscles and the brain, subtly improving oxygenation and promoting alertness. Neurologically, these motions are more significant than they may appear. Rotational movements activate proprioceptive pathways that help the brain map body position in space and anticipate motion, enhancing reflexes and protective responses. Researchers have observed that elders who continue these rotations maintain better balance reactions when faced with sudden perturbations, reducing the risk of falls. The eyes, vestibular system, and neck muscles work together during rotation, creating an integrated sensory experience that keeps both brain and body responsive to the environment. In addition, the subtle, mindful engagement of these motions helps sustain cognitive awareness and attention to detail, as the nervous system is repeatedly reminded of the body's ability to move safely and confidently. For seniors, this movement can be practiced safely at home with minimal effort. Turning the head from side to side while seated, gently rotating the torso while standing, or simply reaching sideways with awareness can reinforce these pathways. The goal is not forceful stretching but slow, controlled motion that reminds the body it is still capable. What seems like an almost negligible habit in everyday life is in fact a cornerstone of balance, coordination, and independence. By maintaining this subtle rotational movement, elders quietly preserve their neuromuscular function, spatial orientation, and cognitive engagement, supporting longevity and functional capacity without the need for structured exercise or external intervention. Now we arrive at number 1, the most important and most overlooked movement of all. This is the habit of frequent squatting or bending the knees, a motion so naturally integrated into daily life in traditional Japanese communities that it is often invisible to casual observers. Elders squat to rest, cook, garden, or engage socially, and this simple action engages the body in a complex, multi-joint movement that supports strength, balance, and flexibility simultaneously. Researchers studying long, living populations have found that maintaining the ability to squat safely and comfortably correlates strongly with independence, mobility, and even reduced risk of chronic conditions associated with sedentary lifestyles. Unlike gym-based exercises which isolate muscles or require equipment, squatting engages the entire kinetic chain in functional patterns that mirror everyday activities. Biomechanically, squatting recruits the quadriceps, hamstrings, gluteal muscles, and stabilizers around the hips and lower spine. The motion also challenges ankle dorsiflexion, knee flexion, and hip mobility, providing a gentle but consistent stimulus to maintain joint range of motion. As the body lowers and rises, core muscles are activated to support the spine, while balance systems adjust continuously to maintain center of gravity. This repeated integration of strength, flexibility, and coordination makes squatting a remarkably efficient movement for preserving functional capacity over decades. Even partial squats, performed slowly and with support, provide these benefits by sending consistent signals to the nervous system that these pathways remain relevant, keeping reflexes, balance, and muscular responsiveness intact. Neurologically, squatting trains the brain to coordinate multiple joints simultaneously and manage shifts in the center of gravity, a critical skill for fall prevention and independent living. The vestibular system, proprioception, and motor planning are all engaged during this simple movement, creating a dynamic feedback loop that reinforces both physical and cognitive function. Researchers have noted that seniors who maintain regular squatting habits tend to have better lower body strength, more confidence in movement, and a lower incidence of mobility-related complications. Beyond the physical, the psychological aspect of squatting is significant. It conveys a sense of agency, reminding the body and mind that daily tasks, bending, reaching, and rising, are still within one's capacity. For practical application, this movement does not require extreme depth or risk-taking. Partial squats, holding a counter or sturdy surface for support, or performing slow knee bends during household tasks are all effective ways to preserve this ability. The key is consistency and integration into daily life rather than isolated, intense effort. Over time, this habit maintains the structural integrity of joints, strengthens muscles, supports balance, and preserves the neuromuscular pathways that underpin independence. What might appear simple on the surface is in fact a profound predictor of longevity, functional health, and the ability to live freely, reflecting the wisdom of long, living cultures that embed such movements seamlessly into everyday routines.